Hello, and welcome to today's VC Task Force Gary's Picks event for investors and startups. My name is Joel Rosenberg, Director of Business Development and Strategy for VC Task Force. VC Task Force is an organization where the venture community comes together to address critical issues, provide workshops and other events for the benefit of the venture and entrepreneurial communities. VC Task Force provides access to an extensive network of VCs, corporate VCs, and angel investors. You may ask questions anytime during the event, and time permitting, they will be answered live after today's interview. It is my pleasure to welcome Gary's Picks host, Gary Fowler. Gary is CEO and co-founder of GSD Venture Studios, an award-winning growth stage AI venture studio. Gary is also co-founder of the award-winning AI startup Eva.ai, as well as the investment firm DY Investments. Today, Gary will be interviewing special guest Håvard Windstad, COO and co-founder at Performance Industries, a Norwegian startup focusing on male sexual health. Performance started with a patented invention, more specifically a medical device that can prevent and cure erectile dysfunction. Today's results are taking Håvard's team to a different market after exploring some pleasurable side effects also for men without any dysfunction. With some small differences, the company can address men who seek pleasure as well as men wanting to improve their sexual functioning. They have finished product development and are seeking capital and partners for global launch. Most of Håvard's working life has been spent in media agencies and within advertising and market research. The last few years have been more dedicated to startups, including a role as head of mentoring in an accelerator program. Håvard was born curious and thrives on positions where he can learn and develop. His work has taken him to multiple countries and exciting destinations, including the Norwegian Arctic region at a research village called Ny Ålesund. Take it away, Gary.
Thanks a lot, Joel. Great having you here, Howard. So my name's Gary Fowler. As Joel said, I'm the CEO, president, and founder of GSD, Get You Done Venture Studios. And so I got a question for you. How do you go from Molde University and then to the University of Volda and then the University of Oslo, studying things like religion and social geography to becoming an entrepreneur?
Good question, and thanks for having me. Good question. I think we started with saying that I'm born curious. And, curiosity has no limitations. There's so much you can learn in life. So, life takes you on the journey. I think the most life-changing thing happening to me was I lived a year in Ecuador, in Quito, in South America, and met my wife. And after that, you need to find a job and you need to be responsible, and that sort of changes things. But after a long career in advertising, I started to find this interest for startups, and I started investing quite a bit and doing some learnings. And then some of the learning you do is that execution power and team dynamics is some of the limitations. So now I'm trying to go in and get my hands dirty, and it's a way of lowering the risk, really.
No, it's amazing to me, but I got a question. I get the intellectual curiosity thing, but how in the world do you go from going from a drug rehab center to working with polar bears and or the Polar Institute?
Yes, the same thing. I guess the drug thing is also a Christian organization, so I sort of started in that landscape. But and then we worked with heavy drug addicts, like young kids, in rehabilitation. Really motivated kids, because it's a small place. It's really hard to get into. But and after that, I wanted to continue and wanted to travel to South America and work on the street down there. But something happened, as it normally does in life. My mom got sick, and so I couldn't go. And then that led to an opening in Svalbard, in Spitsbergen, Ny Ålesund, a small research village, and a job in the Norwegian Polar Institute. So fantastic, 4 or 5 or 6 months up there. I was able to go with the National Geographic team out and hunt for the seals. They need to mark the seals in the ear with a sort of a GPS thing to track how they travel and live. So we were out there on the ice and waiting for the seal to come up, and then 2 big guys from the Norwegian Polar Institute were jumping over them and holding them down, and fantastic, and the best photographers in the world up there in the Arctics. So fantastic experience.
Wow, that's amazing. So what was the most interesting thing that you did while you were there? We were there 4 months, I recall, correct?
Yeah. It's a fantastic small place with researchers from all over the world. It's one of the most interesting places in the world when it comes to air pollution and water pollution and changes in temperature. So you get to meet all these fantastic people. So I guess that's one of the most interesting things. And then we had some dogs, and a lot of people who likes to take a trip in the nature, and they were hunting seals, and we had some seals hung up for drying. And then there was a polar bear coming into town. It should have been far more north because of the they follow the ice up north, and so he was
Can you see the global warming when you're there? Can you understand that the warming's taking place?
Yes, you see the glacier is moving. It has moved hundreds of meters during these years. But that polar bear actually came back, so that was the most dramatic thing. I was called up in the morning because we used to eat breakfast in the same locations at the same time. And somebody called and said, "Håvard, don't leave the house now. Go to the window and look outside." And there was a polar bear just outside. They needed to.
Wow, that's amazing. That is unbelievable. Wow.
So glad I called.
Okay, so you go from that. Now tell me, how do you go to being a teacher in Spain?
I'm married to Colombian Gloria. I met her in South America. So we are bilingual, and we wanted our kids to pick up the Spanish culture or the Latin culture. And I was in an advertising agency, one of the biggest in Norway, and I was lost in, and I saw they had some trouble. So, and then I had a friend down there, and he called and said that, or she called and said that, there's a position here. So I applied. My wife said, "Yeah, great. Just one problem. You're not a teacher." But I was able to get the job because I had some real life experience with the clients, and had worked with IKEA and other brands. So I got the job, and it was a fantastic year.
Okay, so what about the Peloton and the cafe? How did that come about?
Cycling. It's a cycling inspired cafe. Interest, curiosity. I come from a cycle background, and the co-founder or the founder, he burns for 2 things. It's cycling and it's Italy, like wine and food and culture in Italy. So we built this place with for cycle interested people who love so good pizza and a good wine. So it's a great place to follow, like Tour de France or Giro d'Italia or whatever.
Wow, that's amazing. Okay, so you went down through this journey, and as you're going down through it, you founded you were the chief operating officer for performance. So you are the chief operator. How does it work? Are you the co-founder of performance, investor in performance, or just the chief operating officer?
Both. I'm a sort of a co-founder and a COO. It's a guy called Aspen who's the inventor and the CEO in the company. He goes really deep on product, and the invention is his. So he seems to specialize on product, on details, on minimizing the risk for that something goes wrong in the production or whatever. And I'm actually, I had a friend who invested in the company, and he said that perhaps you should invest, and we could also need you on board. So that's how it happened. I was invited in.
And so tell us a little bit about it. So what's Performance Industry doing, and how does it address the different markets from the medical, near medical market to the consumer market?
Yeah. It all started with, and I think I need to do two things. One is apologize because we need to now go into some perhaps uncomfortable landscape. Two adult men talking about, sexual health and etc. And the other part is I'm not a medical expert, so if I get into things that is not that precise, it's I'm doing my best, but I'm not a doctor. But it started with the founder. He has like 4,000 ideas written down, and we went through some of them. There's some really crappy ones. There's some really good ones, and we ranked them all by some criterias, like the commercial potential, the margins, the size of the markets, and also the impact on the world. And this one came out on top. It's not the easiest product to develop, so perhaps we didn't do ourselves a favor, but that's how it started. And
so,
yeah.
have you raised, how much money have you raised? Have you raised much money for this company? What are you doing in terms of the company, in terms of global expansion, I guess would be the best thing. How are you expanding it globally?
Yep. Good question, and a difficult question a little bit, because we have raised just a small amount in Norway, like 500K perhaps US dollars. So we are a very small team, a lean team, and we have been focusing most on the product development. And we are now there.
How's that gone in terms of the
It's
product?
going good. It's going good. It has taken some time, and that's because the product contains of two different things. One is an electrical motor, like a massage gun almost, and the other thing is the thing you need to attach to your body or your private parts. And as you know, we are all different sizes, forms, and etc. So that part has been a little bit intricate, and we have spent more money and more time on that than we wanted, but we have found a really good solution now. So we are doing something quite extraordinary, I believe. It's a medical device. It started with the challenge of erectile dysfunction, and that is such an important topic. It's hard to believe, but 1 out of 3 of us will get that. We'll have that experience during our life, and when it hits really hard. Can you imagine being there, like thinking that this is the end of intimacy? It's really hard. If you're in a relationship, it's really hard to admit.
I understand. How do you go down through? I mean, there's all these other, Viagra and Cialis and all these other things. So how do you, when you look at it, how do you bridge? You said in the beginning it's a sensitive subject, right? And depending on the culture, the US, I think, is a little bit more conservative than the Nordics, right, in terms of this. But how do you go down through and address it? Because you're right, it's a huge problem that needs to be solved, and somebody's got to do it, because nothing good happens. I mean, relationships fall apart, all kinds of other. How do you go down through and bridge that gap and make it so that the public accepts it?
You're right. It's sort of the last taboo. It's a silent problem. We hope to be able to address it in our go-to-market strategy a little bit later on. The first priority now is to get the product produced. We are finished with the development. We are now starting the tooling process and getting the first batch of 1,000 products. And then we know in advance that it will be some issues. It always is with physical products. So when we are finished with the baby diseases, then we are ready to think more about the global launch, I guess. But perhaps I can say a few words about what we actually do, because
Yeah, sure. Tell us about it.
the erection is such a complex process, and it depends on so many things, including your mental state. Like depression is one of the causes, and diabetes and overweight and lifestyle issues and age, so many things. But when we looked into it, it's also not so complicated, because what happens is really two things. The first thing is there's a muscle. We like to call them erection or erectile muscles just for the ease of it. It's called bulbospongiosis. Nobody is able to remember that one. So we say the erectile muscles. And what they do is they send in blood with high pressure into the sort of the spongy parts. And then it also has a door, the blood might go out again through a dorsal vein, and the same muscle actually tightens that one. So it sends in blood with a lot of pressure and stops the blood from going out, and then the magic happens. So what we thought about is, okay, actually it doesn't matter what's the reason behind your problem, because if we are able to stimulate and activate that muscle, the magic will start, because the muscle will start with its contractions, the blood will go into the organ, and it will be limited going out, and then there's pressure, and the rise happens. So that's sort of the principle. If we can stimulate and activate the musculature in a way that forces contractions, it will pump fresh blood into the spongy bodies, and that will, create a natural erection. So the big problem is how to get into that muscle, because they're behind the penis, back in your body. So the only way is to create some forces going through the penis and into the body. And if you think about the penis like a sponge, you can bend it, you can squeeze it, nothing happens. But if you stretch it, then the power goes into the body, and it can actually start several things. It creates the reflex in the muscle. So it starts with its contractions. Then you have the constant movement back and forth, which continues the same contractions, and you get the blood going in there. And then you have the vacuum. It's a vacuum technology. And the vacuum actually sucks the blood out and throws it back again into the penis. And that is good for arterial blood flow. And now you get all this, oxygen, nutrition into this. And it's, when we talk to urologists, they say that this might be the most important thing, because, for example, if you're a patient after prostate cancer, nothing happens. Like in a male body, the man has this mechanism. So when we sleep, you can get an erection, and that is just the body taking care of maintaining the function. And it's really important for the blood flow and everything. And that doesn't happen when you're operated from prostate cancer. And you just have a few weeks and months maximum. So when we talk to the specialists, they say that this could be the one thing the patients need. You could think of it as a training apparatus, like a thing you do to exercise, and think of it like taking care of your body and your sexual and mental health, because sexual and mental health is just the same thing, really. If you suffer with your identity from not being able to have sex, it influences your mental health as well.
Right. No, I mean,
And
it's
then,
a profound influence. And, if you can go out and help those folks that have, but where do you draw the line between medical and consumer product?
yes, something fun happened, because, we use an agency to the product development of the physical product. And given the nature of this, you can't go to the grocery store and ask people for an interview and a product test, because it's, intimate. So they needed to test it on themselves, all the different iterations. And then suddenly 27 from that company wanted to invest in our company. So we sort of learned that, I think this is quite interesting also for well-functioning young men. And we started interviewing them about this, what's all the buzz about? And they say that what happened is you feel all these forces going into the body. So it sort of touches you in a new place. It's not like anything you have experienced on your own or with a sexual partner. So it's a different sensation. And then what happens to you and me when or a man when we have sex after the ejaculation, everything turns off, and that's the same muscle that turns off, and the man becomes sore and everything, but it turns off. And because of the stimulation that goes on, that doesn't happen. So they say, actually, I can go on after that and just can ride this thing. So they are talking about prolonged climaxes, intense climaxes, and someone even used the word multi-orgasms.
So
And that's a new thing.
how do you go down through and market it then? Because it is sensitive. How do you get people? Who do you go to? You can't put it in the grocery stores, you said. Where can you put it?
Yeah, or perhaps the product could be in a big grocery store, but you can't go there asking people to for a product test. But the starting point will be one of the retailers here in our region within sex toys, probably, with the pleasure part of this, because that's the easiest way to start, and it can bring in the money, so we could be sort of self-scaling on the revenue because we have fantastic margins on the product. And the regulatory process to be able to have this on prescription, that's a longer ride. That could take us 2 years or something. So meanwhile, we're starting with the other markets. We're keeping the team really lean and flexible, and then let's see how it is received in the market. Like we have only tested it because we only have just a few quirky prototypes at the moment, and but we have tested it on 20 people or something, and something is happening to all of them. Most of them have quite pleasurable experiences, and also some of them had erectile dysfunction. Now said that, okay, this changed things. And then it's important to say that it's sort of a solo thing. It's a device that is handheld, so it might not help afterwards. We don't have the data on can you continue with a sexual life with your wife or so afterwards. We need to do all the testing on that, and what kind of patients does it work on or not. But in the medical category, we think that the first category we will aim for is prostate cancer patients. And then talking to one of the smartest guy in startup here in Norway, he said that I don't think I would start with patients because there's so few, and men are really, we go late to the doctor and we hate to talk about intimate problems. So he said that I would do it easier without the medical approval, and sell it more through pharmacies or something like that.
Yeah, that would be interesting. That sounds interesting. I mean, it's a wide market. I mean, the key is going to be, and you have a lot of marketing background and advertising, but the key is, how do you make it exciting for that market? And at the same time, you're right, it's a big problem. How do you address it without it, without people smirking about it? So, finding that right group, and maybe it's like, I remember many years ago, they used to have like parties in houses, Tupperware parties and all that, and so, how do you get this out there? And maybe it's not the men, maybe it's the women that actually are the consumer of it. for the men, right?
Yeah, good point. And I think me and you talked about this earlier, that there's such a room for like a digital direct to consumer distribution, and we could build a place with content regarding men's health and
Yeah, I mean,
mental
that's
health
it.
and
because
sexual health.
You start talking about it, it's a taboo subject sometimes, but you start to talk about it, and you bring them in and have them check, and then you have those 27, give you case studies talking about why they wanted to, not only did they use it, but they want to be an investor, so it's that good. And then put in there, it's that good.
Yep.
So it's great. Well, anyhow, we're coming to the top of the show. I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to join us today. It's fantastic. And as always, I appreciate each and every one of you for joining one more time Gary's Picks. I'm your host, Gary Fowler. Stay happy, stay safe, and stay healthy. And I'll turn it over to Joel. Joel.
Great. Thank you guys very much. Really insightful and very, interesting to our audience from several angles. So very good, Howard. Thank you for your work and dedication in this area. Gary, thanks for another great interview.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Look forward to seeing everybody back in 2 weeks for the next edition of Gary's Picks. Until then, stay well and take care. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.